Welcome back to the Case 4 with Chris Cox, the pretend procedural that is set not in the court of the last resort, but rather the court of the Disney World Resort. This is the podcast where theme park expert Len Testa and mind reader Chris Cox will regularly debate some of the more trivial aspects of vacationing in Orlando, what makes that experience great or an absolute misery. I'm the less than honorable James Robespierre Hill, and I'll be presiding over today's proceedings, and after Chris and Len's arguments, I will then render my verdict. All verdicts are final until, of course, they're not, which means that we'd love to have you, the listener, also weigh in with your thoughts on these not-so-weighty matters.
Hello, Your Honor. Chris Cox here. Sorry to interject so early. Quick question. What are you doing standing next to a pile of kindling? Normally, instead of kindling or kindling, I like saying kindling actually, Your Honour. Normally it's just your bench, but now kindling. Why?
Well, we'll be talking about parades on today's show, will we not?
We are, actually, but specifically, what's the very best place in the Magic Kingdom to watch the Festival of Fantasy Parade? And that's been going through the Magic Kingdom since, March of 2014?
This is true. Well, I've been lucky enough to tour the Macy's Parade Studio, which is located in scenic Moonachie, New Jersey.
Look, I mean this in the kindest possible way. Firstly, Moonachie, one of my favourite words. But actually, having visited the Garden State many times whilst on tour with the Illusionists, did I mention, by the way, that I've toured the world, I've played Broadway, the West End? I don't really like to talk about it.
I think that might have come up previously once or twice or 16 times, yeah.
Surprises me. Anyway, as I was saying, and again, I mean this in the kindest possible way, the name New Jersey and, Your Honour, the term scenic, are they mutually exclusive?
Chris has a point here, especially when you consider that prior to 2013, Macy's Parade Studio was located in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is hardly what you'd call the garden spot of the Garden State, despite Frank Sinatra actually being from there.
Well, anyway, when I was touring the facility, I learned something fascinating, which is that every Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade float, in order to make the trip over from Moonachie to the parade starting point, which, by the way, is up by the American Museum of Natural History right off of Central Park West, first has to travel through the Lincoln Tunnel.
I've done the balloon inflating ceremony a couple of times, which is done typically like Tuesday, Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It's very Disney-esque in how they gather people to walk, up and down 72nd Street. But I didn't know that the parades actually come from New Jersey through the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, because I've seen the parade a few times, once in person when I was doing the show on Broadway. I don't like to talk about it. I was living in an apartment right on 42nd and 5th, and I watched the parade from above and got a wonderful view of SpongeBob's butt. It looks really good from up there. And then I've seen it also, not so glamorously, on tour. We were traveling from somewhere very far away to, I want to say, Cincinnati, Ohio, and I woke up and
You played Cincinnati, Ohio, Chris?
Again, wow. I don't like to talk about it, but I woke up and watched the parade from the tour bus whilst we were still travelling, and it's always a bad day on tour when you wake up and the tour bus is still travelling. But I don't get what's the significance about it having to go through the tunnel?
Well, for one thing, the Lincoln Tunnel is notorious for its low headroom.
Which is weird because Lincoln has a tall hat, so should be able to get through it without crouching.
It is not the stovepipe tunnel that is that. I think you get like 13 and a half feet for vehicle limits, and then it's a mile and a half from Weehawken to Midtown. It's a decent sized tunnel.
This is why every single Thanksgiving Day float that the team at Macy's Parade Studio puts together has to be able to fold down to just 13 feet in height.
Okay, but going back to the kindling, what has this got to do with that pile of rubble which used to be your bench, Your Honour?
I wanted to see if I could get this thing to fold down to the point where I could get through the door into my judicial chambers, which, by the way, are only 13 inches in width.
Of course you did, Your Honor. That's a perfectly sensible use of this court's time. And speaking of time, could we get started, please, with today's case?
Absolutely. I would bang my gavel to start these proceedings, but I may have already put that through a bandsaw. So, where do you two stand when it comes to the very best spot to watch?
Oh, very good, Your Honor, very good.
But should we start with a brief history of the Festival of Fantasy Parade?
Jim, sorry, Your Honor, my apologies. I feel like Len didn't give you enough credit for your where do you stand when it comes for the best spot to watch the parade, because you stand to watch there you go. It took him a while, but he got there.
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
So, you said March 2014, right, Len?
Yes. And this was a replacement for the old afternoon parade, which for the life of me, I'm blanking on, but I think it was, generic afternoon parade. I could be wrong.
It's my favorite of all the generic parades. And this one I've seen a lot because obviously it's been running for 12 years now. And there's got these big kinetic floats. There's amazing costumes. And this is the one, right, with the Maleficent dragon, right? That incredible sort of part puppet, part steampunk fire-breathing dragon float.
Yeah, that's the signature float, I think, for this parade, right? It's the thing that everyone knows about the parade, right?
Yeah. And as I remember this parade, I remember there's the Tangled one with the ringing bells. There's Peter Pan's pirate ship, Little Mermaid's there, Brave is there. You've got lots of the princesses. I have memories of there being more people in it from when I last saw it.
Yeah, that's a valid observation, Chris, that since this debuted 12 years ago, entertainment has reduced the head count. It did have a much larger cast of street performers, dancers, characters when Festival of Fantasy first debuted at the park, but again, hard realities of running a business.
Yeah, I think a lot of the dancers were removed when the parade came back from COVID, right? Because it was down from 2020 to, I want to say 2022, like March, April of 20. And when they came back, a lot of the dancers were cut. I think originally that was a COVID safety measure. Yeah. But then finance was like, hey, you know what?
There we go.
Yeah. But the floats are still there. Yeah, floats are still there.
Yeah. And I, have very strong memories as a child seeing the parades in Disney World and Magic Kingdom, and have really, obviously, stronger memories now of taking my kids to see those parades. And it's something that we always make sure we do on every visit to Magic Kingdom. It's rare you get to see a parade anywhere these days. And there is something special, even though it's sort of not quite what it once was. The parade is a very special Magic Kingdom thing. I have memories of, did it used to be more than once as well?
Occasionally on busy days, they will run it twice, typically at noon and 2 or noon and 3 p.m. So Christmas time, Easter time, we might get a dual afternoon parade.
Now, obviously, we're arguing the case for where to stand to watch the parade. And I've been to a couple of locations. So let me pitch you my first point. The first point where I've stood to watch the parade is on the hub near Main Street. And let me tell you, I'm never doing that again.
Really? What side of the hub were you on? Were you on the east side, the Tomorrowland side, or the Frontierland side?
I remember it clearly as the very busy side.
The busy side. Yes.
Yes.
And what did you not like about this?
I think there was it was a day where we weren't planning on seeing the parade, but we happened to be at the point where the parade was coming through. So we either sort of try and distract our children and go the other way, or they were aware the parade was there and wanted to see it. So we just joined the masses who had similarly got there late and now were all crammed into a short sort of area because no one could really cross the street. I feel like we've got some quite nice photos from that one because we've got the castle as our backdrop, but it felt very hot there and very crammed in.
That's the thing with the parade. If you're trying to come into the park or leave the park, it basically cuts the park in half so that you have to make a decision about where you're going to go even before you get into the park. Because if you enter the park from the left entrance turnstiles, you're essentially trapped on Main Street until the parade is over because you can't cross the parade route. Whereas if you go to the right, you can wiggle your way up through Main Street, U.S.A. and at least enter Tomorrowland. And you can use the shops themselves on Main Street as a pass-through to get to Tomorrowland, or at least as far as you can down Main Street, U.S.A. while avoiding crowds. But that's the real big thing. Like if you come in at like 3 o'clock or you're trying to leave at 2:30, the parade is the obstacle between you and the rides there. That's one thing, definitely.
And the parade goes from Frontierland and ends down at the hub. And I've yet to experience the Starlight Parade, but am I right in thinking, Len, that parade is slightly different in its the way it goes through to help with that crowd management at the entrance and exit to the park?
Right. If the parade is done 2 times, it will start in Frontierland and end in Main Street, and then the reverse will happen for the second route. So sometimes the parade will start in Main Street and end in Frontierland. Yeah.
So the first thing I'm arguing the case for is that I think if you're going to see the parade, the one time I've had a miserable experience has been where we sort of accidentally saw the parade because it was on and we were there as if we sort of just turned up late to see the parade. My case for getting a good spot to see the parade is wherever you go, you want to get there 30 minutes early or so.
Depending on the time of year, I think 30 minutes to an hour is good. But I think, Chris, let me ask you this question. I'm guessing for your parade viewing, you were standing and you were in the sun. Is that correct?
Yes. And I strongly recommend against at least one of those things.
Right. And for me, it's not standing in the sun. So for that reason, I really like the side of Frontierland that faces the old rivers of America, the side of Frontierland with the shops, for a couple of reasons. One is you get a little bit of shade when you're in Frontierland, especially that stretch sort of like from Pecos Bills down to the sort of the side entrance into Adventureland. If you can stay on that side and you can get in the shade, you're also a little bit elevated. That's not bad at all.
Now, I took this advice from you last time we went, and this is my advice that I give now to other people because of you, and that is the spot to go. We saw the parade from there, and there's numerous reasons why that is a good spot. Firstly, we spent the wait for the parade sitting on kind of a curb-type step up into Pecos Bills.
Yep.
So we were sat in the shade. There was a little breeze coming off the river, and we were there eating as well. We'd got some food, so we were kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It wasn't dead sitting and waiting time, and we weren't standing in the basking hot sun. And when the parade came around, we actually could stay sitting at this point because we were right at the front and the kids were small, so the kids could wave to the characters and we wouldn't stand and get in anyone's way. It was a really lovely way to see the parade. And then the downside was when it finished, we hadn't really thought, we were like, oh, we'll go on Haunted Mansion. Terrible idea. When it finished, the secret then is obviously to go to Tiana's or round to Pirates or up to Big Thunder Mountain, right?
Definitely.
Not to follow the parade.
Yeah, so, Chris, I want to be clear here. When you were sitting at Pecos Bills, you were sitting on the curb directly in front of the parade. You were not sitting in the outdoor seating area that is a little bit recessed and sunken.
That's right. We were in front of that seating area, but I enviously that seating area.
The thing with the seating area is it because it's sunken, you actually have to look up to see the characters and you don't get a great view of the parade float. So I think your spot there, being on the curb rather than in the seated area, is a better view. Of course, the upside to the sunken area is you actually have chairs and you're sitting in the shade as well.
Oh, backrests. We love a backrest.
A little bit of right, exactly. A little bit of a trade-off there. The other thing I like in Frontierland is that area of shops sort of in the middle of Frontierland. And Chris, my tip here is if you can find a seat that is directly in front of one of the open doors that is pumping out air conditioning.
Oh, king of the parade right there.
Exactly. Then you're living right. I remember Hannah and I found a spot at the last minute there one time for an afternoon parade, and it wasn't directly in the shade, but if you wore a hat with the air conditioning, blowing on your back, it was really, really nice. Yeah. I think that's probably the last time that I remember. Yeah.
The one concern I have about the advice you gentlemen are sharing here is that July 7th of last year, the Rivers of America closed.
Yep.
And in fact, what's kind of interesting is the new nighttime parade, Disney Starlight, didn't actually debut to almost 2 weeks after that, the 20th of July, 2025. And
right.
I'm just wondering now with the construction fence up and the impact that's had on foot traffic and how people use that side of the park. Does this advice still hold? Or obviously once Piston Peak comes online in 2028, 2029, we're going to need to revisit this advice. Right?
Well, Your Honor brings up an excellent point, and I must say you look smashing while you're doing it. The boardwalk along the north side of that walkway is now closed. I think it closed in the last week, and the issue there is you've lost now half of your parade viewing area in Frontierland. So same number of people, half as much space. Frontierland is going to be more crowded. So I think, Chris, our point here should be maybe start scoping that out an hour in advance.
That's a good idea, and if you can combine it with food, it's not wasted time. I suppose the other option is to head up towards kind of Liberty Tree Tavern, that area, because you could still get something to eat. I've done it from there a few times. Once I had shade for most of it. Once I thought I had shade, and then the sun moved, and suddenly we were in the glaring sun next to the umbrella stall, so I ended up buying parasols from that stall to just kind of keep us shaded. But it wasn't actually that busy there. It didn't feel overly crowded and felt like we were, standing on the surface of the sun, but we were spaceful because of it. Spaceful, is that a word? I suppose.
I do like the Liberty Square area, but Chris, I would suggest something a little bit closer to the bridge between Liberty Square and the Central Hub. So the area around Sleepy Hollow, if you can get there, either side of that is good. If you're on the Sleepy Hollow side, you've got some seating, and obviously you've got access to snacks. Plus, you can also walk directly into Fantasyland when your part of the parade is done. The other side, the side that is the Adventureland side of Liberty Square, has much more shade, but it's also got a more obstructed view of things. So unless you're directly under the last little tree branch, you're going to have a little bit more difficult time seeing the parade floats. But I don't think either of those are bad, especially if you need a last-minute suggestion there.
Quick thought here. When Alice was a teeny tiny child, in fact, we were still bringing her to the park in her giant Emily Young stroller. Anyway, I'm not entirely sure how my ex, Shelley Valladolid, pulled this off, but we wound up being the only people on the bridge between Liberty Square and the hub at the Magic Kingdom. And this is when they had just started presenting the Remember the Magic Parade, which was the daytime parade that the resort's entertainment team had put together for Disney World's 25th anniversary. So it was a very big deal to get this sort of exclusive viewing spot for Remember the Magic very early on in this parade's existence. So, but here's the thing. Alice is the only child in this specific zone of the parade. Again, just that viewing spot that's on the bridge from Liberty Square.
Oh, so much attention. Yeah.
As each float came across the bridge between Liberty Square and the hub, all of the street performers that accompanied that parade float would then descend on my daughter's stroller and then talk directly to Alice or tickle her or give her a high five. And now, my daughter is 2 at the time. And initially, Alice is loving all of this attention from the characters, but by float number 3, as the next set of street performers in bright, colorful costumes are headed her way, Alice is suddenly, I'm good. No more characters, please. And then by float number 5, Alice is actually laying down inside of her Emily Young stroller with her face to the wall as if to say, enough, please make the giant mice and ducks go away. Long story short, if you ever look longingly at those places in the park where, celebrities and A-listers, they get to sit and watch the parade, understand, there is actually a downside to this experience. There is a thing as too much attention at a Disney theme park.
All right, so we've covered Frontierland. We've covered the area of Main Street around the Central Hub. I think the one place we haven't talked about is closer to the train station towards the entrance of Main Street. And
near the flagpole.
Near the flagpole, right. So you've got a couple of choices there. You could actually be in the center island surrounded by the parade, Chris, to your point, where the flagpole is. And that's an option. You're in the direct sun, but you are surrounded by parade floats. The one place I would say absolutely not, like no matter what, it looks like a great vantage point, but you will regret it the moment the parade starts, is the elevated area on the porch outside of Tony's Town Square. And the
okay, so next to where we can meet Mickey Mouse these days.
Exactly.
By the theater.
And the reason for that is Tony's Town Square serves a garlic shrimp scampi. And when you're there at 3:00 in the afternoon on a really, really humid, hot day, that is the worst smelling thing that you could possibly smell in a theme park. And you will not want to eat. You will not want to eat food again. So maybe this is a money saving tip too. But I was there last week doing this exact thing, like trying to get through the parade right at 3:00 because I was entering the park at 3:00, and I happened to route myself right by Tony's to get in, and I thought, if I had to stand here for 30 minutes, I would leave the park. Like it was
a sniff of that scampi is no good.
It was making me physically ill to walk through, and it was super hot. It was super humid. I was wearing the wrong, I probably wasn't wearing sunscreen. I was probably wearing, all black like I normally do. So I didn't make a lot of great choices that day, but still, that is the last. Garlic shrimp is the last thing you want to smell while waiting for the parade. It's much better off going back by the bakery and smelling, baked goods. That's much better.
It's an interesting point, isn't it, as well? Because the parade's everyone knows the parade's 3:00. I just know that ingrained in my head. But every time I think of the Festival of Fantasy Parade, that song is such an earworm. It constantly, just thinking about it, I hear that song in my head. But I also feel physically, I feel my body start sweating because it is the hottest time of day to have a parade and where you have to just stand in the sun.
Yeah, it's one of those times where you're like, I think I could use a Florida thunderstorm right now. But, the alternative, Chris, is you don't have to see the parade, right?
Well, this is the point, right? Is it wise to avoid the parade, watch it on YouTube in the comfort of your air-conditioned home? And is that time actually better spent on rides? There's always a sort of an assumption that the wait times dip while people are watching the parade. Is it true?
I think it is. So in our show notes, I've added a couple of wait time graphs from attractions around the Magic Kingdom. And the way the graphs are built, the x-axis is the number of hours the park has been open. So let's assume the park opens at 9 a.m. The parade's at 3:00. Right around 6 hours into the park is when the into the park opening day is when the parade happens. And you can see for attractions like Space Mountain and Buzz Lightyear, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and the Barnstormer especially, there are significant dips around the time that the parade starts when you're looking at both the posted and the actual wait times for those attractions. And I think it's more pronounced the farther away you are from the parade. So the Barnstormer drop in posted and actual waits is pretty significant. That's the most obvious one. But you can see it in
but then, of course, you are going to have to go to the chiropractor as well. So
right, yeah, for 60 seconds worth of getting your bones shaken around. But there is definitely a lull in wait times, both posted and actuals, when the parade is happening. And I think it starts probably 30 minutes before the parade starts and lasts until about 20 minutes after the parade ends. There is a bounce back in wait times once the parade ends. So you have a limited window of about an hour to get in one or two good attractions if you want to skip it. Definitely.
That is a smart little move. And actually, if you skip it, but you still want to see the characters, I am a big fan of the cavalcade.
I do love a cavalcade too. They're still running them. Jim Hill, have you seen these recently?
They're still doing the character cavalcades at the Magic Kingdom? Really?
Yeah.
As I recall, that was something that was started just after the parks in Florida first reopened in 2021 after closing for COVID. And this was something that entertainment did in the interim so that they got a taste of the parades in the park. Mind you, it's just one or two floats moving down Main Street, U.S.A. with a handful of performers and characters on board, but they're still doing that now? The character cavalcades? I mean, even though we no longer have to social distance in the parks and the full-scale daytime and nighttime parades are back, I did not know that.
And it's a little bit like if you've you've ever seen the rainy day version of the Festival of Fantasy Parade, it felt like they took that idea and were like, oh, we could just get the characters along. And I have some great memories of kind of the first post-COVID visit around, it was sort of, I guess, sort of 5, 6 p.m. then, just before we left the park on our last day. We had an ice cream sundae on Main Street. We watched it, we could get there 5 minutes before, sit on the curb, the cavalcade would go by, and all the characters are there. You see so many in a very short space of time.
It's been cut down a little bit. If anyone wants to take a look at the current Disney webpage for it, it's the Disney Adventure Friends Cavalcade. Normally runs in the mornings. So this week, for example, it's 10:30 a.m. and 11:45 a.m., which again, not the super hot surface of the sun time. And I put a link to a current video in the show notes. A cavalcade is like 4 minutes long, which for me in my short attention span theater loving mind is the perfect length for a parade. It starts with a handful of characters walking behind a parade banner, and it's the Incredibles, the Toy Story characters, maybe Coco, I think. And then you've got exactly 2 floats. The first one that I remember had Merida, Mulan, and I think Isabel from Encanto. And then on the back of that float is Nick and Judy from Zootopia. The second float has Moana, Pocahontas, and I think Bruno, plus Panchito and Jose from the Three Amigos. Then you get another handful of walking characters. The one I saw had Stitch, Max, Goofy's son, and then Mary Poppins and Bert, and Marie from the Aristocats. And Laurel loves this kind of thing because the character selection is so random. It's clearly done by someone in the middle of an ayahuasca ceremony. Hallucinating. There's no other explanation for that. Right? So, yeah. But I really like
I love a cavalcade. Yeah, I think they're fun. They've got that crazy music as well, which I've never heard. I don't know what it's from, but it's like, it's, I'm not going to sing it because of copyright laws and also want to protect your ears, but it's like, da, 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 da. It's a really odd song. And every time I hear it, I'm like, what is this from? But we love it. And, it's a really good one. Like you say, quick, wave the characters, see them. Anne-Marie is very happy at that parade because Marie is there. And side note, the kids are getting cats and she's calling hers Marie because of the Aristocats. But because they're fancy cats, we get to give them pedigree names, which go in some big, like, blockchain-style document. And I'm very pleased that I've managed to put in the word EPCAT for my cat.
EPCAT, exactly. Experimental prototype cat of tomorrow.
Exactly that. Very happy about that. And one final note on parades. I have seen people at the front of the parade, right? They go in the car, they have a wave. People are picked to begin the parade. Len, have you ever been that person? Do you know how you can become that person?
I've not. I believe that's the family of the day. But
Oh, yes.
I've not had the opportunity to do that, but it looks like a lot of fun. And I wonder if you get union scale for that.
If you have been one of the people that leads the parade, please get in touch with us for our next listener mailbag episode. I want to hear all about that.
I will close with this. The Festival of Fantasy Parade is rated 4.5 stars out of 5 by every age group that we've looked at, except for preschoolers who give it 5 stars, and teens who give it 4 stars. And I want to point out there are not many teens that I've ever met and thought, yes, this is the person I should be taking advice from. So maybe we discount the teen ratings there. It's definitely it's also slightly higher rated than the Starlight Parade in the evening, which is kind of
wow.
Yeah.
And look, it's been running for 12 years. There's a reason why, right? It's a great parade. I think we're pitching the best place you can see the parade is to head up to the top end of Frontierland near Pecos Bills, maybe get some nachos, sit in the shade on the curb, enjoy it, and then head straight to Tiana to cool yourself down.
I think that's a great tip. Yes.
Okay, great. And maybe, Len, we should do this for the Starlight Parade at some point soon.
Oh, we should definitely do that because that's a relatively new parade and some of our listeners may not have seen it. That's a great idea, Chris.
And actually, speaking of light, I can't imagine that your honours bench, even in its cut-up form right now, is all that light. Exactly how are you planning on moving this, large piece of lumber into your judicial chambers, Your Honour?
And more to the point, what are you going to do with all of these individual pieces of wood once you get them in there?
2 words, Len. Tree fort.
Here's another 2 words that you may soon become very familiar with. Straitjacket?
Given how warm my judicial robes get during the summer months, a straitjacket, especially one with some short sleeves, might be a very welcome fashion change. And on that somewhat sweaty note, another session in these hallowed halls, the court of the Disney World Resort, has now come to a close. My thanks to our two would-be barristers, theme park expert Len Testa and master illusionist Chris Cox, for sharing their thoughts on the very best place to view a parade in Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom. Just a reminder, though, a full verdict won't be rendered until you, the listener, finally weighs in with your thoughts. But for now, the case for with Chris Cox is now closed. On behalf of Mr. Testa and Mr. Cox, this is the less than honorable James Robespierre Hill. Thanks for listening, and this court will be back in session soon.